Taking Race Live is a co-curricular project. The aim is to bring race and ethnicity alive in different ways, but also to bring critical understandings of race and ethnicity and culture alive to students and their peers and to staff and even to the public. We also wanted to bring those subjects together and to address race and ethnicity amongst students as a way of, I guess, taking on an inclusive curriculum. The rationale for Taking Race Live was inspired by sociologists Les Back and Nirmal Puwar's book, Live Methods. And within that book, they talk about live sociology. And they advocate the arts for developing the craft of sociology to bring it alive.
We look to better inform students of themselves and of others to make sure that they have an understanding of how they work within a particular space or within a particular discipline or area, and that they can learn not just from us as lecturers but from each other and from their own prior experience.
I've learnt about cultural appropriation and how that has come into dance. So, for example, African dance, maybe how a move from a traditional African move has come into dance. And it's kind of been used in a more contemporary way, or it's been used to show something different. So how it's kind of gone on that journey, and it kind of becomes almost indistinguishable when you look at it in a certain way.
Every year, Taking Race Live has addressed a different theme. So the first year it was stories of race, faith, and culture. The second year it was sounds of race and culture. And the third year it's been Taking Race Live, spaces of race and culture. And one of the committee meetings that we had was me bringing in a chapter of Nirmal Puwar's book, Space Invaders. And one of the reasons why I gave them that reading, or students that reading, was for them to familiarize themselves with Nirmal Puwar's work and to also think about what she was addressing in that piece. And in her book, she talks about race and space and how race marks space.
What students have taken away from the project, I think, is just becoming very aware of how race and ethnicity structure everyday life and how it's infused with life all the time. Again, I often, when I sort of had seminars on race and identity in the past, one of the experiences I often had is that sort of the European white students were very quiet because they felt, this is not my issue. I can't contribute anything to this. And one of the things that I think came out of certainly this year is that students from different backgrounds felt or learned how much everyday life, their own identity, is shaped through race and ethnicity.
They've also learned, I guess, in some ways been on a personal journey themselves, being a part of the project, learning about race and ethnicity, things that they haven't reflected on before.
Wasn't she Prime Minister for a few years?
11 excruciatingly painful years.
If you hate her so much, why are you writing a report about her?
She actually links to my history. She actually had an effect on my culture and where I grew up and my friends and family.
Although the issues are there, as long as we address them and we don't let them bog us down, we can overcome them as a whole, and as long as we don't let them affect our personal demeanour, then it's a way of moving forwards.
As a collaborative project, has enabled me and my students in music to work with colleagues in sociology, media, dance, drama, and really to think across those disciplinary boundaries. So it's really pushed us into realms of other acceptances and other ways of thinking. So Taking Race Live for me becomes almost like a pair of glasses where you have different perspectives. And it's about celebrating that different perspective because you try and put yourself in the shoes of somebody else to understand.
There are many things they have learned. First of all, coming together and discussing about issues that normally are kind of taboo in their everyday life, and especially issues that are normally associated with particular group, and therefore was an opportunity for students also to understand that these issues do not only pertain or they are not only important for certain community, but for the whole society, for everybody. There is also, in terms of learning, the opportunity to discuss and interact with people coming from different disciplines. So there is the difficulty and therefore also the excitement of talking through different languages and trying to find, learning how to find a common language as well in terms of cross-disciplinary dialogue. And also in terms of coming together as a group to organize events, so there are skills, professional skills they can develop, such as planning and delivering events and coming to decision together and sharing responsibilities.
One of the students, an American exchange student, came up to me and sort of said, "Oh, that was amazing, because I didn't really think, how do I connect to this project? But after this, I know how my own identity has been shaped as well and how it's infused in everything."
For me personally, I really enjoyed working with people that are not actors. So I worked with sociology students, and it was really different because I'd never worked with sociology students before, that they wanted to get their point across and we wanted to share it creatively. So it was really interesting just seeing how they would portray it and how we would portray it, and kind of, it was a challenge merging the two skill sets together.
I am Mary Seco. I am a British nurse. I've always viewed myself as British. Not British Caribbean, just British. But this is an identity that I'm not allowed to have without adding some other word to indicate what many consider to be my true identity.
Look at me. Look at my arms. I have plowed and planted and gathered in barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman?
I am Rani Lakshmi Bai, Queen of Jhansi. See how I ride on my great battle horse with my child on my back and my sword in my hand?
I feel like I learned how to work with others that think differently from me, because when I'm always working with actors, we always think creatively, oh, how are we going to make this look aesthetically beautiful? But they were thinking, but are you really getting that point through? And so it was a challenge making sure we got their point through, because they really wanted to get their point from their essays that they've spent ages writing. And we really wanted to do it justice, and because we had them there, it really made us have to do it justice and make sure we actually got their point across, rather than just making it look aesthetically beautiful and pleasing and entertaining to watch. So that was a real powerful learn for me.
Culture is so important in dance. So I was able to, first of all, show them that, and also show how dance could be incorporated into their disciplines as well. So one moment in the symposium we had dance working with the sociologists, and they were reading out the bio of someone, and then we would dance around that and kind of embody that person throughout dance.
I've gained so much from talking to students in other subjects, to see what they think about the university, what they think about the experience of learning, but specifically how we all have our own identity and our own backgrounds, that we sort of see the world through that lens. And we've been better enabled, each of us, to see the world through the eyes of somebody else, and to broaden our understanding and acceptance of difference, and actually to celebrate that, and to laugh about difference, and to really understand when someone uses a metaphor and a simile why they might be doing that, and not to automatically assume understanding and to ask. So in a sense, I felt initially like I was put in a position of vulnerability, because you have to acknowledge what you don't know and that your experience is different. But then you're put in a position of not just acceptance but celebration, because the coming together of different things and the understanding and gaining that new perspective brings you much closer together. So from my experience, there's been a lot of laughter in the meetings, a lot of laughter in the pop-up events and the support. There's lots of questions. And obviously academics, we ask questions a lot anyway, but the driving force for the questions from my experience has been our students.
Working with lecturers from different disciplines has opened up my relationships with other parts of the university. Taking Race Live started in the second year that I was here at Kingston, and so what it enabled for me to find, and I think what it does for our students too, is that it also created a sense of belonging and a way of finding my voice in sociology. Okay, this is how I want sociology to be. I can't just read textbooks. I need it to come alive to me too. And so it was a breath of fresh air to be working with the arts disciplines on these issues. And after the first symposium that we had in the first year, I was talking to a professor who's in the humanities, and she'd come along to that evening, and she said to me, and she was also had been fairly new to the university, she said to me, that was one of the first times that I saw that I was going to find a place here. So seeing all of that, those disciplines come together, we could see that we would find a place for ourselves here.
When we talk about collaboration, what it really means to collaborate or to co-create. So working with Heidi, for example, in sociology, I gave a guest lecture in sociology talking about musical identities and what happens when you bring a number of these musical voices together. And we looked at music that was in the charts, talking about why that music had been created in the way it had been done. And the amount of questions from the students that were questions I'd never thought of, because they had a different perspective to me, and then I could take that back to the music students. And likewise, Heidi gave a guest lecture in music, and she was talking about migration, therefore the migration of musical styles, and to talk about how a style then changes. We ended up having a whole debate on the notion of appropriation and whether it was okay to perform in another style that's not perhaps of your own origin or your own demographic, or whether appropriation was a bad thing, and actually it was almost aligned to the notion of empire, and whether appropriation was okay. So very philosophical, ethical and moral questions arose about how we use music and how we say music has an identity. So I gained a lot from working with colleagues and students in the other disciplines.
Working with lecturers from different disciplines I think has been very, very interesting, and the big strength of the project as well. First of all, just the experience of it's quite nice, knowing that you're part of university where a lot of different things are happening is very nice, and I think that affected the students as well, just knowing there's so much life, there's so many interesting things going on. But I think it also enhances our subjects very much. The guest lectures we had, I think, really brought the subject to life.
Student work just doesn't stay in a Turnitin box that you've marked and that lecturers only see, but it's to showcase some of the excellent research projects that are working together with drama and dance and music to bring those subject areas alive.
I chose to focus my research project on why black women straighten their hair. Hair has always been important to black women's understanding of beauty, but so is skin, especially the colour of skin. But this skin was not just important to black women, but also other ethnicities and other races.
There is a real strength in working as partners, and one of the real fruits that comes as a result of working together with students on this committee together on this project is relationships.
It's interesting because the relationship, they kind of transform from being the usual relationship between a lecturer and a student to a relation of collaboration and partnership, really, and even friendship, because with some of our students we really have a kind of relationship that goes, of friendship that goes beyond the actual project, because they get engaged and they come to activities beyond Taking Race Live. So there is a constant engagement. This is very interesting because I find the project so empowering that for some students it's just the beginning of a collaboration rather than just the conclusion or a project itself. So with some of my students I continue to collaborate and to create activities, and I invite them and we do things together, so it's really exciting.
In meetings as well, at the beginning, when we spoke, students suddenly would be quiet and would follow our lead, which we didn't always want them to do, so we always had to say, well, what are your ideas? But then, yes, throughout the whole year, by the very end, when we did the symposium, the students were just running it.
But some of the guest speakers that we've had have been Professor Lasbach, who's talked about liveness in his own work around race, Professor Paul Gilroy, who's addressed race and music in his own work, Nirmal Puwar, who's looked at race and space in different areas within London. And we've also heard from practitioners such as Ashley Chin, actor, spoken word artist, Artie Brashar, who has her own company that focuses on different drama projects that are within the community. And we've also had Yaz Ahmed and her jazz quartet, a former student of Kingston, who has played for us and has been amazing. Real, I think, joy over the 3 years is to form those relationships with students and to note how much they progress through those relationships with myself and the team, but also how they progress in their own learning, as well as their own personal and professional development. So one of our students in the second year, I don't think she would have imagined herself by the end of the year standing up in front of a huge audience and being the MC for that particular event. And she was shining after the event. She couldn't get over what she had accomplished. And so seeing that growth has been rewarding and probably the most important thing